Woman learns heaven's secrets during death. Her words will amaze you, NDE. How will this story unfold? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. Sophia Peterson was an ordinary woman, living an ordinary life in a quiet suburb. Married with 2 kids, she balanced her career as a schoolteacher with her responsibilities as a mother. She was known in the neighborhood for her warm smile and nurturing nature. But despite her happy exterior, Sophia had always carried a deep sense of curiosity about life and death. What happens after we close our eyes for the last time? Do we ascend to a world of light, or does everything simply cease to exist? These questions lingered in her mind, but they were philosophical musings, nothing she imagined she'd ever confront firsthand. It all began on an ordinary morning. Sophia had just returned from her usual jog through the park. She felt a strange, sharp pain in her chest, followed by a wave of dizziness. Assuming it was exhaustion, she brushed it off and proceeded with her day. But the discomfort persisted, growing into an unbearable tightness. Before she knew it, she collapsed onto the kitchen floor. Her husband, Mark, found her moments later, panicked and shouting her name. Within minutes, paramedics arrived, and Sophia was rushed to the hospital. As the doctors worked to stabilize her, Sophia felt herself drifting. It was unlike anything she'd ever experienced, a lightness as though she were shedding the weight of her body. The frantic voices of the medical staff grew distant, replaced by an overwhelming silence. And then she saw it, a tunnel bathed in a warm, golden light. It seemed to stretch infinitely, yet it beckoned her with a sense of familiarity. Sophia felt an inexplicable pull toward it. At first, she resisted. "I can't leave," she thought. "What about my children? What about Mark?" But the light enveloped her, soothing her fears. It was as if the tunnel whispered assurances, promising that everything would be all right. Reluctantly, she allowed herself to be drawn in. Sophia emerged into a place that defied all logic and description. It was neither earth nor sky, but an ethereal realm filled with colors she'd never seen before. The air, or what she perceived as air, was alive with an energy that vibrated through her being. She wasn't standing, yet she wasn't floating either. It was as if her essence had melded with the surroundings, becoming one with the environment. A figure approached her, emanating a radiant glow. It wasn't a person in the traditional sense, it lacked distinct features. Yet, Sophia felt an immense love and warmth radiating from it. "Welcome, Sophia," the figure said, though the words weren't spoken aloud. They resonated within her, as though communicated directly to her soul. "Where am I?" Sophia asked, her thoughts forming effortlessly into words. "You are in the realm of truth and connection," the figure replied. "Some call it heaven. Others call it the afterlife. But it is simply the continuation of your journey." Sophia's mind raced with questions. "Am I dead?" "Your body is at the edge," the figure explained. "But your spirit has crossed into this realm to understand what lies beyond." As the figure spoke, scenes from Sophia's life began to materialize around her. She saw herself as a child, running through a field of daisies with her mother. She saw the day she met Mark, their first kiss, and the birth of their children. Each memory was vivid, yet it felt detached, like watching a movie of someone else's life. The figure guided her through these moments, revealing the intricate web of connections that tied her actions to others. "Every choice you made," the figure said, "created ripples in the lives of those around you. Some you saw, and some you didn't, but they all mattered." As Sophia absorbed the figure's words, the scenes around her transformed. She saw herself in moments she had long forgotten, seemingly insignificant interactions that had unexpectedly profound impacts. She watched as a young girl in one of her third-grade classes smiled brightly after Sophia encouraged her to pursue art. The girl had grown up to become a celebrated artist, using her talent to inspire and heal others through her work. "Even the smallest kindness," the figure explained, "can become a seed for greatness." The scene shifted to another memory, one that made Sophia's chest tighten. It was a moment from years ago when she had dismissed an elderly neighbor's request for help carrying groceries. She had been in a hurry, distracted by her own errands. Now, she saw the ripple effect. The neighbor had struggled, injured her back, and spent weeks recovering alone. Guilt washed over Sophia as the figure gently placed what felt like a hand on her shoulder. "Do not carry regret," it said. "Every soul has moments of learning. You are here to understand, not to judge yourself." As the images faded, Sophia felt a strange sensation, like a thread pulling her forward. The figure guided her through what seemed to be a shimmering doorway. Beyond it was a vast expanse, unlike anything she had ever seen. It was both serene and overwhelming, as if the very fabric of existence stretched infinitely in every direction. Sophia could see countless orbs of light, each pulsating with energy and rhythm. "What are those?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They are souls," the figure replied, each one a unique expression of life, connected by the threads of their journeys. Some are here in this realm, others continue their paths in the physical world. But none are ever truly alone. Sophia watched in awe as the orbs pulsed in harmony, creating a melody that resonated deep within her. It wasn't just sound, it was a feeling, a language that spoke to the very core of her being. She realized she could sense the emotions and stories of the souls around her. There was joy, sorrow, hope, and love, all intertwined in an intricate dance. The figure led Sophia to a gathering of luminous beings. They sat in a circle, radiating an ancient and profound wisdom. Each being seemed to carry the weight of countless lifetimes, their light shifting and shimmering with an intensity that both comforted and humbled her. "This is the Council of Wisdom," the figure explained. "They guide and support souls who seek to understand their journeys." One of the beings spoke, its voice resonating like a symphony. "Sophia, you have been brought here not only to witness but to learn. Your time in the physical world is not yet complete, but the insights you gain here will shape the rest of your journey." Sophia hesitated, feeling both honored and unworthy. "Why me?" she asked. "I'm just ordinary." "There is no such thing as ordinary," another being replied, its light shimmering with kindness. "Every soul carries a purpose, a unique thread in the tapestry of existence. Your thread is intertwined with many others, and your choices shape the pattern in ways you cannot yet comprehend." The council began to share their wisdom, each being speaking in turn. They spoke of the interconnectedness of all life, the importance of compassion, and the power of intention. They revealed how every thought, word, and action creates an energetic imprint, influencing the world in ways both seen and unseen. Sophia listened intently, her mind expanding with each revelation. She realized how often she had underestimated the impact of her actions, focusing instead on immediate results. The council's words filled her with a sense of responsibility but also a profound hope. She understood that even in her imperfections, she had the power to create ripples of love and kindness. As the council's teachings came to an end, Sophia felt a new energy stirring within her. The figure who had guided her earlier stepped forward once again, its light brighter than ever. "Your journey here is nearing its conclusion," it said. "But there is one more truth for you to witness." The figure extended what seemed to be a hand, and Sophia felt herself being lifted into a new realm. This place was unlike the others, vividly alive, yet grounded. She realized she was seeing the physical world from a higher perspective. She could see her hospital room, where Mark and their children were gathered. Her daughter, Lily, clutched a stuffed animal tightly, her face streaked with tears. Mark held her hand, whispering words of encouragement, though his own eyes brimmed with worry. Sophia longed to reach out to them, to let them know she was still there. "Can they feel me?" she asked the figure. "They can," it replied. "Love transcends all boundaries. Even when words cannot be spoken, the energy of your love reaches them." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she watched Lily suddenly sit up and look around, as if sensing her presence. "Mommy," the little girl whispered. Mark looked at her, puzzled, but Sophia knew in her heart that Lily had felt her near. The figure turned to Sophia, its tone gentle but firm. "You have seen the beauty and the responsibility of your existence. The choice is now yours, to stay here in the light or return to continue your journey." Sophia hesitated, torn between the peace of the realm she had discovered and the love she felt for her family. She thought of all she had learned, the wisdom she could carry back to the physical world. She thought of Lily's face, of Mark's unwavering support, of the countless lives she could touch with the ripples of her choices. "I want to go back," she said finally, her voice steady. "There's so much more I need to do." Sophia's decision reverberated through the luminous realm like a gentle wave, embraced by the counsel of wisdom and the figure that had guided her. They did not show disappointment nor approval but simply radiated acceptance, as if they had known all along that she would choose to return. The figure extended its glowing hand once more. "Before you go, Sophia, there is something you must take with you, a gift of understanding. It is not something you can hold, but something that will forever reside within your soul." Sophia braced herself as the energy around her shifted again. The bridge between the realms seemed to open, and she was once more transported into the vibrant landscape of human experiences. This time, however, the scenes felt different. They were not memories of her life but glimpses into the lives of others, people she had never met but whose paths had crossed hers in small, seemingly inconsequential ways. In one vision, she saw a young man sitting alone in a coffee shop, his face tense with worry. She didn't recognize him, but the energy of the memory tugged at her. Then she realized why. It was the man she had held a door open for years ago, without a second thought. In her vision, she saw how that small act of kindness had caused him to pause, to feel noticed in a world that often ignored him. It had given him the strength to face a difficult decision and choose hope over despair. Another scene unfolded, a little boy sitting on the steps of an old library, crying softly. Sophia had walked past him on her way to work one morning and, noticing his tears, had stopped to ask if he was okay. She had barely remembered the moment. It had been fleeting, just a quick exchange. But now, she saw how that small act of care had made the boy feel valued in a life filled with struggles. He had grown up to become a teacher, spreading the same compassion to hundreds of children. The figure spoke as the visions faded. "Every soul leaves behind a legacy, Sophia. It is not measured in grand accomplishments but in the moments of connection, the invisible threads that bind humanity together." Sophia felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for the lives she had touched but for the lives that had touched hers. She realized how interconnected everything was, how every interaction, no matter how small, created ripples that flowed far beyond what the eye could see. The figure guided Sophia to what felt like the edge of the realm. The shimmering doorway that had brought her here now stood before her once again, glowing with an intensity that both beckoned and intimidated her. She hesitated, a mix of emotions swirling within her, fear of returning to the unknown, excitement to reunite with her family, and a deep sense of responsibility to live with greater purpose. "Will I remember this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You will remember what your soul needs to carry forward," the figure replied. "And even the things you forget will leave imprints on your heart, guiding you in ways you may not fully understand." Sophia nodded, feeling a mixture of sadness and hope. She took one last look at the luminous beings of the Council of Wisdom, their light now a comforting presence in the distance. Then, with a deep breath, she stepped through the doorway. The first thing Sophia felt was the warmth of Mark's hand holding hers. The beeping of the hospital monitors and the sterile smell of the room flooded her senses as her eyelids fluttered open. She blinked, her vision blurry at first but slowly sharpening to reveal Mark's face hovering over hers, his eyes wide with disbelief and joy. "Sophia!" he exclaimed, his voice breaking. "You're awake!" She tried to speak, but her throat was dry, and the words wouldn't come. Instead, she squeezed his hand, a weak but deliberate gesture that brought tears streaming down his face. Lily's small figure appeared beside him, clutching the stuffed animal she had been holding earlier. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice trembling. Sophia nodded, managing a faint smile. The room erupted in relief and emotion as the doctors entered, astonished at her recovery. She could hear their words, medical explanations about how her vitals had stabilized against all odds, but their voices felt distant, secondary to the overwhelming love that filled the room. As the days passed and Sophia regained her strength, she began to notice how differently she viewed the world. Colors seemed brighter, sounds richer, and every interaction held a depth she hadn't noticed before. She found herself cherishing moments she would have once overlooked. Mark's laughter, Lily's curious questions, even the mundane routines of daily life. But what struck her most were the opportunities to make a difference, no matter how small. She began volunteering at a local shelter, mentoring young women who were struggling to find their paths. She took the time to listen, to offer encouragement, and to remind them of their worth. And though the memories of her experience in the luminous realm were hazy, the lessons remained clear. Kindness mattered, connection mattered, and every soul had the power to create ripples of change. One evening, as she tucked Lily into bed, her daughter looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. "Mommy," she asked, "when you were asleep, did you go to heaven?" Sophia paused, her heart swelling with emotion. She thought about the words she had heard, the visions she had seen, and the overwhelming love that had enveloped her in that otherworldly place. "I went to a place filled with light," she said gently, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "And I learned something very important." "What did you learn?" Lily asked, her voice soft. "That love is the most powerful thing in the universe," Sophia replied. "And it's all around us, even when we can't see it." As Sophia continued her recovery, her perspective on life shifted in profound ways. She didn't need the grandeur of dramatic change. She understood now that the subtle, seemingly inconsequential moments were where life truly unfolded. Sitting at the kitchen table one morning, sipping tea while the sunlight streamed through the window, she felt a contentment she had never known before. Mark noticed the difference in her demeanor. "You're quieter these days," he remarked gently, placing a hand on hers. "But it's not a bad thing. Like you're more present." She smiled. "I think I'm just paying attention more." Mark squeezed her hand. "I'm just glad you're here." Sophia started noticing opportunities to connect with others in ways she hadn't before. On a walk through the park, she struck up a conversation with an elderly man sitting on a bench. He spoke about his late wife and how he came to this bench every day to feel close to her. Sophia listened, truly listened, and in his gratitude, she saw the healing power of simple acts of kindness. At the grocery store, she helped a young mother struggling with her toddler and groceries, offering a comforting smile and assistance without hesitation. The woman looked at her with teary-eyed gratitude, and Sophia realized how rare those moments of genuine human connection had become in a world often consumed by haste and indifference. Lily began to notice the change in her mother, too. One day after school, she brought home a crumpled drawing and presented it to Sophia with a shy smile. It was a picture of their family, with Sophia's figure surrounded by what looked like rays of light. "Is this me?" Sophia asked, touched by her daughter's creativity. "Yes," Lily said confidently. "You're like the sunshine now." Sophia hugged her daughter tightly, holding back tears. In Lily's simple words, she found a profound truth. She wanted to be a source of light, not just for her family but for everyone whose lives she touched. One day, Sophia decided to share parts of her near-death experience with Mark. They were sitting on the porch as the sun set, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. "Mark," she began, hesitating for a moment. "When I was asleep, I wasn't just unconscious. I was somewhere else. A place filled with light, love, and understanding." He looked at her, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "What do you mean?" "I can't fully explain it," she admitted. "But I felt this overwhelming sense of connection to everything and everyone. I saw how even the smallest actions ripple out in ways we can't imagine." It was humbling. Mark listened intently as she described the visions, the figure who guided her, and the moments of clarity she experienced. When she finished, he reached for her hand and said, "That's beautiful, Sophia. Maybe that's why you've come back, because the world needs more of that light you found." His words stayed with her, fueling her desire to live with intention and purpose. She began journaling her thoughts, capturing the lessons she had learned and the feelings that now guided her. Her entries weren't just for herself. She hoped that one day, they might help others navigate their own challenges and uncertainties. Sophia also started speaking at local community events, sharing her story with those who were curious about what lay beyond the veil of life and death. She spoke not from a place of certainty but from her own experience, emphasizing the importance of love, kindness, and the interconnectedness of all things. Her talks resonated deeply with many who attended, sparking conversations about spirituality, purpose, and the value of human connection. People often approached her afterward, thanking her for her vulnerability and sharing their own stories of loss, hope, and resilience. Sophia never claimed to have all the answers. She knew that her experience was unique and that everyone's journey was different. But she found solace in knowing that her words could inspire others to look at their lives through a lens of gratitude and compassion. As the years passed, the memories of her near-death experience remained vivid, a guiding light in her life. She watched Lily grow into a compassionate and curious young woman, always encouraging her to embrace life with an open heart. She and Mark deepened their bond, finding joy in the quiet moments that made up their days. Sophia's life wasn't perfect. She still faced challenges and moments of doubt. But she carried with her the knowledge that even in the darkest times, there was a light that connected them all, a light that could never be extinguished. As Sophia's newfound purpose unfolded, her presence began to touch lives beyond her immediate family and community. The small town where she lived became a quieter reflection of her radiant energy, a reminder of how one person's light could ignite others. One day, Sophia received an invitation to speak at a larger event, a regional conference on personal transformation and resilience. At first, she hesitated. Standing in front of a crowd of hundreds felt daunting, but Mark encouraged her. "You've already touched so many people here," he said, his tone steady and reassuring. "Imagine how many more could benefit from your story." Lily chimed in with her youthful enthusiasm. "Mom, you're like a real-life superhero. Go show them what you're made of." Sophia couldn't help but smile at their support. Despite her nerves, she decided to step out of her comfort zone. As the day of the event arrived, she stood backstage, her heart pounding, clutching the notes she had written. But when her name was announced and she stepped onto the stage, a wave of calm washed over her. The bright stage lights reminded her of the light she had seen in her near-death experience, and she took a deep breath. She began by sharing her story honestly, admitting her fears, struggles, and doubts before the experience that changed her life. As she described the indescribable, the overwhelming sense of love and connection she had felt on the other side, the audience sat in rapt silence. Her words weren't polished or rehearsed, but they were raw and heartfelt, resonating with something deep within everyone present. "I learned," she said toward the end of her talk, "that the smallest acts of kindness, the ones we think go unnoticed, can create ripples that touch the lives of people we'll never meet. If we can see each other through a lens of compassion, we can change the world, one moment at a time." When she finished, the room erupted in applause. People lined up afterward to speak with her, sharing their own stories of transformation, loss, and hope. Sophia listened to each person with the same attentiveness she had learned to cultivate, offering words of encouragement and gratitude for their courage in sharing. Among the attendees was a young man named Caleb. He told her about the loss of his mother and how he had been struggling to find meaning in his life since. "Hearing you speak," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "gave me hope that maybe she's still connected to me somehow." Sophia placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "She is," she said softly. "That connection doesn't end, it just changes form. Keep looking for her presence in the small, quiet moments. You'll find her." Caleb's eyes filled with tears, and he thanked her before walking away with a renewed sense of purpose. Sophia's impact continued to grow as she began receiving invitations to other events, as well as requests to write a book about her experience. At first, the idea of putting her story into words seemed overwhelming, but Mark reminded her of the journals she had been keeping. "You've already written so much," he said one evening as they sat together on the porch, sipping tea. "You just need to share it." With his encouragement, Sophia began the process of compiling her thoughts, reflections, and stories into a cohesive narrative. She titled the book Light Between Worlds, a nod to the connection she felt between her life on Earth and the radiant light she had experienced beyond. As the book took shape, she poured her heart into every page, revisiting the moments of fear and doubt she had faced, the lessons she had learned, and the beauty she now saw in the world around her. It was a labor of love, and when she finally held the first printed copy in her hands, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The book's release brought Sophia's story to an even wider audience. Readers from all walks of life reached out to share how her words had touched them, inspired them, and given them hope. Some spoke of finding comfort in their own grief. Others described how they had been inspired to practice more kindness in their daily lives. One letter in particular stood out to Sophia. It was from an elderly woman named Margaret, who had been estranged from her family for years. Margaret wrote about how Sophia's story had moved her to reach out to her daughter, whom she hadn't spoken to in over a decade. The two had since reconciled and were rebuilding their relationship. "Your words reminded me," Margaret wrote, "that it's never too late to choose love." Sophia wept as she read the letter, overwhelmed by the knowledge that her experience, something she had once viewed as a terrifying and isolating ordeal, had become a source of healing and connection for others. Despite the growing recognition, Sophia remained humble. She continued to prioritize the small, meaningful moments in her everyday life, playing board games with Lily, gardening with Mark, and sharing quiet conversations with friends and neighbors. She understood that her purpose wasn't to chase accolades or fame but to live each day with intention, spreading light wherever she could. One evening, as she sat with her family under a canopy of stars, Lily asked her a question that took her by surprise. "Mom, do you think I'll ever see the light you saw?" Sophia considered her daughter's innocent curiosity, her heart swelling with love. "I hope you don't have to," she said with a gentle smile. "But if you ever do, I know it'll be beautiful, just like you." Lily nodded, satisfied with her mother's answer, and leaned against her shoulder. Mark wrapped an arm around them both, and in that moment, Sophia felt the same sense of connection she had experienced during her near-death experience. It wasn't something far away or otherworldly. It was here, in the love they shared, in the laughter and the quiet moments, in the light that lived within them all. As Sophia's journey continued, her life took on a rhythm that was both extraordinary and deeply grounded. She balanced her growing platform with her personal life, always striving to stay true to the lessons she had learned during her near-death experience. One day, she received a call from a major publishing company. They wanted to turn Light Between Worlds into an audiobook and asked if she would narrate it herself. The idea thrilled and terrified her in equal measure. While she had become comfortable sharing her story in public, the thought of recording her voice for countless listeners felt like a new kind of vulnerability. After much encouragement from Mark and Lily, she agreed. The recording sessions were emotional and cathartic. As she read aloud the passages about her darkest moments and the indescribable beauty of the light she had encountered, she often found herself pausing, tears welling up in her eyes. The producer, a kind and patient man named Eric, reassured her. "Take your time," he said. "Your emotions are what make this real. People will connect with that." The audiobook became an even bigger success than the print version, reaching people who might not have otherwise encountered her story. Messages poured in from around the world, many of them from individuals who were struggling with grief, illness, or a sense of purposelessness. Sophia made it a point to respond to as many as she could, offering words of encouragement and reminding them that their lives, no matter how difficult, were deeply meaningful. One message, however, stood out. It was from a man named Javier, a war veteran who had been battling severe PTSD. In his message, he wrote about how Sophia's words had given him hope for the first time in years. "Your story reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there's light," he wrote. "Thank you for helping me believe that I can find peace again." Sophia replied immediately, sharing her admiration for his courage and resilience. She encouraged him to seek support and to hold onto the belief that healing was possible. To her surprise, Javier wrote back a few months later, sharing that he had started therapy and was slowly beginning to rebuild his life. "You saved me," he wrote. "Thank you for being my light." Stories like Javier's filled Sophia's heart with gratitude and purpose. She often reflected on how far she had come since her near-death experience. What had once felt like an inexplicable and overwhelming event had become the foundation of a life dedicated to love, connection, and service. As her platform grew, Sophia was invited to speak at an international conference on spirituality and science. The event brought together thought leaders, researchers, and individuals from all walks of life to explore the intersection of faith, consciousness, and human experience. On the day of her presentation, Sophia stood backstage, taking deep breaths to steady her nerves. She knew this was an opportunity to share her message with an even wider audience, but the responsibility felt immense. When she stepped onto the stage, she was met with a standing ovation, a humbling reminder of how her story had touched so many. She began by recounting her near-death experience, describing the overwhelming sense of love and interconnectedness she had felt. But she also spoke about the challenges she had faced upon returning to her life, the fear, the doubt, and the struggle to integrate such a profound experience into her daily reality. "What I learned," she said, her voice steady and clear, "is that the light I encountered isn't something we have to wait for. It's here, in every act of kindness, in every moment of connection, in the love we share with one another. We don't have to leave this world to find it, we can create it, right here, right now." The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. People lined up afterward to thank her, share their own stories, and ask for her advice. One attendee, a neuroscientist named Dr. Elena Patel, approached her with a proposition. "Your experience aligns so closely with what we're studying about consciousness and the nature of reality," she said. "Would you be willing to participate in our research? Your insights could help us bridge the gap between science and spirituality." Sophia agreed, intrigued by the opportunity to contribute to a deeper understanding of the human experience. Over the next several months, she worked closely with Dr. Patel and her team, sharing her memories and reflections. The research process was both fascinating and healing, as it allowed Sophia to articulate aspects of her experience that she had struggled to put into words. The collaboration led to a groundbreaking study that explored the impact of near-death experiences on personal transformation and well-being. The findings garnered significant attention, sparking conversations in both scientific and spiritual communities. Through it all, Sophia remained grounded. She continued to prioritize her family, her community, and the small, meaningful moments that made life so rich. She often found herself reflecting on how her near-death experience had reshaped her perspective, not just on life and death but on the everyday miracles that so often went unnoticed. One evening, as she and Mark sat on the porch watching the sunset, he turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "I think the real miracle isn't just what you experienced, it's what you've done with it. You've turned something extraordinary into something tangible, something that helps people. That's a gift." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's not just me," she said. "It's us. It's everything we've built together. The light isn't mine alone. It's in all of us." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Sophia felt a deep sense of peace. Her journey was far from over, but she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Sophia's journey continued to inspire countless lives, her story reached corners of the world she never imagined. A documentary filmmaker, Emma Castillo, approached her with an ambitious idea: to create a feature-length film that would explore not only Sophia's near-death experience but also the ripple effect it had on the lives of others. Initially hesitant, Sophia was unsure about the idea of having her life laid bare on such a large scale. But Emma's vision wasn't just about Sophia. It was about the universal themes of hope, resilience, and the search for meaning. After weeks of contemplation, Sophia agreed, trusting that the film could amplify the message she had devoted her life to spreading. Filming began in her hometown, capturing the simple beauty of her everyday life. The crew filmed moments of her with Mark and Lily, their laughter and shared meals offering glimpses of the love that anchored her. They also followed her during her speaking engagements and book signings, where she met people whose lives had been profoundly changed by her story. One particularly moving scene captured Sophia meeting a young woman named Elena, who had traveled thousands of miles to attend a book signing. Elena shared how she had lost her mother in a tragic accident and had been struggling with despair. Reading Sophia's book, she said, had given her a sense of peace and the courage to keep going. "Your words reminded me that my mom's love hasn't disappeared," Elena said, tears streaming down her face. It's still here, in me, in everything she taught me. Thank you for helping me see that. The interaction left both Sophia and the film crew deeply moved. Moments like these reaffirmed Sophia's belief in the importance of sharing her story, no matter how vulnerable it made her feel. The documentary also delved into the stories of others who had experienced near-death moments, drawing parallels between their journeys and Sophia's. One featured subject was Javier, the war veteran Sophia had connected with through email. He shared his transformation, crediting Sophia's words for sparking his healing journey. Seeing his resilience and growth brought tears to Sophia's eyes, a poignant reminder of the interconnectedness she had felt during her experience. As the film neared completion, Emma invited Sophia to view the first cut. Sitting in the dimly lit screening room, Sophia watched her life unfold on the screen. The scenes of her hospital stay, her descriptions of the light, and the heartfelt testimonies of those she had touched left her overwhelmed with emotion. When the lights came up, Emma turned to her with a nervous smile. "What do you think?" Sophia wiped her tears and took a deep breath. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's not just my story, it's all of ours." The film, titled Light Between Worlds, A Journey of Hope, premiered at an international film festival where it received a standing ovation. Critics praised its authenticity and emotional depth, while audiences described it as life-changing. Sophia found herself thrust into the spotlight once again, her story reaching millions through the film's global release. Amid the whirlwind of media attention and accolades, Sophia remained focused on her mission. She used the film's success to launch a foundation dedicated to supporting individuals grappling with grief and trauma. The foundation funded therapy programs, support groups, and educational initiatives, ensuring that help was available to those in need. One day, while visiting a community center funded by her foundation, Sophia met a boy named Caleb. He was 8 years old, with bright eyes and an infectious smile, but his mother shared that he had been struggling to cope with the loss of his father. Sophia knelt to Caleb's level and spoke to him gently. "Your dad's love is still with you," she said. "It's in your heart, in your memories, and in all the things he taught you. And whenever you miss him, just close your eyes and think of him. He'll always be with you." Caleb nodded solemnly, a small smile breaking through his sadness. His mother thanked Sophia, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've given him, and me, so much hope. Thank you." Encounters like these continued to fuel Sophia's work. She often reflected on how her life had unfolded in ways she never could have predicted. What had started as a single, extraordinary experience had grown into a movement of love, connection, and healing. Years later, as she sat on the porch with Mark, watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard, Sophia felt a profound sense of gratitude. Her journey had been filled with challenges and triumphs, heartbreak and joy, but through it all, she had found her purpose. Mark reached over and took her hand. "Do you ever think about the light?" he asked. "Every day," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "But you know what I've realized? It's not just out there. It's here, too, in us, in our love, in everything we do." As the fireflies danced in the twilight and Lily's laughter echoed in the air, Sophia knew that the light she had experienced was indeed present, not just in her memories but in the life she had built and the lives she continued to touch.